Now, imagine a made-for-TV movie, but it's actually good. Our Sons is a 1991 film starring Hugh Grant and Julie Andrews about a man whose partner is succumbing to AIDS, so he enlists the help of his mom to get in contact with his partner's mom to help reconcile their relationship. Now, being a made-for-TV movie, I didn't expect this movie to be good, but it was. It's a very unique perspective because usually stories about AIDS have gay men at the front and center, but here we get to see that it's actually through the mother's perspective, which was definitely a different type of take on this story. And even though this film came out in 1991, there's still some really relevant and useful things that you can take from it. The gay storyline is actually a supporting storyline. The heart of this movie has to do with both of their mothers. And you have Julie Andrews and Anne Margaret, who are two very powerful performers, and they really do carry this film. Now, this coming out in 1991, I could imagine this was super useful, especially to parents who may have a gay or lesbian daughter, and them realizing that it's okay, and them helping people that were just kind of on the fence or processing that situation. And what the movie does is it gives you two different types of parents. You have the Anne Margaret character, who is the more conventional, bigoted, we've seen it before, small town thinking, cliche of I don't support my son because he's gay kind of view. But then you have the Julie Andrews character, which is a very complex, nuanced character. And the reason being is that she is accepting on the surface, but as the movie goes on, we start to see some flaws in her full acceptance, which I thought was fascinating. And even though this film is really heartbreaking, obviously, every time I watch movies like this, I can't help but imagine myself in a situation like that and the people that I love in a situation like that. And it's always difficult to watch. But this movie is not complete misery. There is a lot of levity sometimes to it, especially comical scenes between the two women. There's a big set piece that happens early on when the Julie Andrews character is going to meet the Anne Margaret character, and it's like these melding of these two different worlds, because it's like a rich woman from California going to meet like this trailer park woman from Arkansas, and the whole town is really interested in what's going on because of the car she pulls up on. It's just a really good scene, and that scene leads into a really powerful confrontation between the two actresses. And this movie kind of becomes like a road trip movie. I saw recently a movie called Midnight Run, and it reminded me of that, in that these two unlikely people are forced to be together in the same situation, in the same car. And so comedy kind of evolves out of that. But make no mistake, it's a very serious film dealing with some very serious topics. And even though the Hugh Grant character and his partner, we don't get a lot of backstory, in the scenes that we do get, we do feel like their relationship is pretty lived in, especially from the shorthand conversations that they have between each other. And their performances do help you cue in that there is this love there, even though sometimes the Hugh Grant character doesn't fully express it, but maybe it's because he may be internally dealing with this insane thing that's happening in his life. The vast majority of this movie has to do with these two women, and there's a great scene that happens at a restaurant, and their dialogue going back and forth, their push and pull between their different ideologies about their sons. But in particular at this restaurant scene, they talk about the word queer, and the Julie Andrews character does not like the use of it, and it's obvious because that word used to be a pejorative back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and certainly in the early 90s, it probably was still a negative thing, but obviously, as you can see, things have changed. But it was interesting to see her take on that word and its use back then.
And I'd rather you didn't use that word, especially when we get there. What word? Queer.
The movie is kind of building toward whether or not this mother is going to reconcile with her son, who is on his, last days. And that is where the energy is pushing and motivating that hopefully there's going to be some kind of conclusion in a happy way. I do think, though, just from a character perspective, that it was very insensitive the way that Hugh Grant puts this plan in motion. And I don't want to give away too much, but I felt like it felt really disrespectful to his partner. but that's just my personal opinion about it. One criticism I have of the film is that it kind of tidies things up a little too nicely. Maybe in a different, more traditional film, things would have fallen apart in a more messier, realistic way. But that's the way it is. And I do see that this film could be still of value to parents. In particular, this theme and idea of how parents project expectations on their children and how dangerous that can be. And that's still relevant today, regardless of your sexual orientation or gender identity. It goes beyond that. I mean, that's one of the dangers and things that this film hits up on, is that when parents put these expectations on their children, they lose the connection to the person that their child actually is, and the time that is lost in the grief of what they wished their life could be. And that's all from a made-for-TV movie, so I think that's worth it. And I also like Hugh Grant's performance in this. He has a great American accent, and this is not the first time that he's played a gay role. If you're interested, you could click right here and learn all about the film Morris.